This game has been played for over 100 years, and the rivalry is like no other. They play with pride and passion, knowing that soon, together, they will defend our nation. There is incredible respect, but the mantras "Beat Army" and "Beat Navy" are ingrained from day one. Navy has celebrated victory in 11 straight, but Army never goes down without a fight.
Navy better watch out because we're coming to start our own streak.
Beating Army makes our season or breaks our season. So I want to beat Army.
Reputation and bragging rights for their entire military force are on the line. On the national stage from Philadelphia, it's Army, Navy, the purest rivalry in sports. And we welcome you back to Philadelphia and CBS Sports Network's continuing pregame coverage of America's game, Army, Navy, presented by USAA, our live tailgate show, beginning now. It is pomp and circumstance and great pageantry here in Philadelphia on a cold, brisk, and soon winter stormy day, but these folks love it. They are braving the elements, and so are we. Under 90 minutes until kickoff between Army and Navy in Philly. Adam Zucker back here with Randy Cross. We have landed from the flight deck after taking in the march on.
Almost literally.
Almost literally. Joining Aaron Taylor and Houston Nutt. You guys look like you've been enjoying yourselves out here as well during our first 90 minutes of coverage. But now we're getting set for the game, guys. Now we are trying to break this thing down and see if Army can end this 11-game losing streak to Navy and turn the corner, add another chapter to this great rivalry.
Well, and this is unusual. I think these teams are told every single week, we've got to execute perfectly. You can never make mistakes. You're not as physically talented as your opponent. You have to be perfect. Now they're facing another opponent that's hearing the exact same thing, and it does come down to who executes the most perfectly.
Yeah, turnover is very costly in last year's edition. Of course, these are two teams who have really cut back on turnovers as well as penalties this year, Aaron, and they're going to deal with the elements a little bit.
Well, it's going to be interesting. I think the elements today can be a great neutralizer. When you play in a football game like this, you have to be able to protect the football, and the bottom line of physics is when it's this cold and you're a skill position player, your hands don't catch as well. You don't hold on to the football as well. Your digits start to get numb. So we saw in last year's game, turnovers were certainly a factor. You have to be able to take those precautions and still execute to the degree. And because of that, I think the weather factor neutralizes some of the advantages that Navy has, and that's going to give them some help in this ball game.
Does the weather neutralize an SEC coach?
I tell you what, when I see Army and Navy, I see toughness. They're probably not even worried about the weather. They run the football. They don't have to worry about anything. They're tough. And I tell you what, only thing I can draw this close to is Oklahoma State, the rival that I had. OU running that wishbone. You try to find a way to disrupt. Knew they're going to execute. Try to find a way to disrupt 5 to 6, 7 plays, get a turnover, make something happen.
I wanted to tell you, Ray Mabus, who joined us earlier, wanted me to let you know he still has the Ole Miss fleece that you gave him back when he was governor and you were coach there.
Great. Good to see you. I enjoyed y'all's interview.
Yeah, this is it's been a special day here already, and Army and Navy, as you can tell from our surroundings, it is a rivalry in a bowl game atmosphere, and each team has a very similar but polar opposite slogan that is ingrained from the moment they arrive on campus.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Go Army, beat Navy.
As soon as you arrive here during the indoctrination period, you hear everyone screaming it. They're forcing you to scream it. Everywhere you go, everywhere you turn, you have to say, Go Navy, beat Army, and it's ingrained in your brain.
You hear it right away during cadet basic training. It's one of the first greetings you learn to greet upperclassmen is Go Army, beat Navy.
It took me about 5 steps to hear that one.
Go Navy, beat Army. I learned Go Army, beat Navy when I was still in diapers.
Go Army, beat Navy.
You learn it within the first, probably 30 seconds because you're getting yelled and screamed at, and every time you turn a corner, people are telling you got to say, Go Navy, beat Army.
Go Navy, beat Army.
People will see you
an Army football shirt or your Army uniform that say, go Navy, beat Army. And it's one of those things you yell back, go Army, beat Navy. So it's just one of those little things. It grows on you.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Go Army, beat Navy.
Go Navy, beat Army.
Go Army, beat Navy.
Interesting enough that Rich Ellerson, the Army head coach, actually started at Navy. Didn't last very long, though. Transferred out to Hawaii and eventually would recruit Ken Niumatalolo to Hawaii, where his career would begin. Of course, now the guys that are on the field today, the one star for Navy that we've gotten used to seeing, Keenan Reynolds, the quarterback who played his first Army-Navy game last year and led the Mids to victory.
Well, he is their bread and butter, and without question, that offense goes through him. And if Army wants to win this ball game, they're going to have to stop Keenan Reynolds. Simply the nation's scoring leader, over 156 points this year. Tremendous job. In that San Jose State game a couple weeks ago, triple overtime, had 7 rushing touchdowns and 1 passing touchdown. Unbelievable what it is that he brings to this team. When you look at where he's at, fellas, he has a chance today to be able to pass Ricky Dobbs as the dual threat quarterback to set the single season rushing touchdown records by a quarterback. We could watch history made here today by Reynolds.
And by the way, Ricky Dobbs wants Keenan to break his record. He's currently on the USS Oscar Austin. He got in touch, said he's going to be watching from the ship, and he wants Keenan to break the record just like Ricky did against Army here in Philadelphia. Who are you watching?
Oh, you can't help but watch this guy. This guy's special. But I'll tell you what, I want to look at another guy. How about Thomas Holloway? How about this guy's toughness? He had an ankle sprain. He comes back from after 3 or 4 games. Then he gets a staph infection. But this guy can tackle, and he can tackle in space. This guy's tough. He has 59 tackles. He arrives in a bad mood. He can find the ball carrier. He has an interception. He's a leader on the defense. And I tell you what, all eyes are on this guy. They follow him.
Well, you want to look for an advantage. Normally, in normal weather, you'd say that Navy has an advantage because they throw the ball so well. But the advantage, really, when you look at it, who has the best runner in this game? Who has had the most spectacular game? And that's got to go back to Terry Bagot of West Point. He had that unbelievable game earlier this season, over 300 yards, extremely explosive.
Yeah, over Eastern Michigan, he just kept going and going, and we'll see if he can break it out again over 1,000 yards on the season. We're going to continue to have many special guests join us here during our 1-hour live tailgate show. General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, will join us here as we continue live on CBS Sports Network.
They're fighting for.
You could expect emotion to play a big part in this encounter.
I think this is really going to be a fair fight. The team that makes the least amount of mistakes could win this football game.
Here's Steelman. And that's Maples. I do have those.
Another fumble.
Fullback Copeland.
Yeah.
There he goes. Touchdown, Navy. Here's Steelman. Touchdown.
That was a beautiful drive by Army.
Reynolds keeps it on the ground.
It falls out, and Army's got it.
Army's got it. 21-yard field goal attempt. Army has taken the lead. Reynolds slips a tackle, goes for the corner, touchdown Navy. Army still has 1 timeout remaining. Nothing doing on this one.
He fumbled the ball. Navy has it. For the 3rd straight year, Trent Steelman ended up with an L.
Navy wins it 17-13.
Oh, Trent Steelman and company came so close last year to beating Navy. They'll try to do it again this time and end an 11-game losing streak to their arch rival. A very special guest joining us now, General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who we should note is not wearing any gloves, unlike the rest of us. General, it is great to have you with us again, sir. Where have some of your recent travels taken you?
Well, actually, I'm just back from an overseas tour. We went to Suda Bay, Greece. We went to Afghanistan, Aviano Air Base in Italy, and finished it off at the Army base in Germany.
This is a little colder than those?
You know, it was pretty cold in Afghanistan, actually, so we had to pack pretty much everything I own, but we're back. Yeah.
Hey, General, obviously you've got an allegiance in this game. Is there ever any doubt, despite your office, despite the title you hold, as to who you root for?
No, you know, every year, this is my 3rd year as the chairman. Before that, I was the Army chief, but I love them all. But on this day, for these few hours, I am unashamed to say, go Army, beat Navy.
This is my first experience to be here. I've watched it many times on TV, on CBS, but I tell you what, just to see the march on, to see the young men and women, what do you think this does as football players as they leave the football game, leave the football field, and they get on with life? What does this do for these young men and women?
Well, you know, the spirit that is captured in this game of competitiveness does carry on into their careers. I mentioned that I stopped in Suda, Greece, and the Navy aviators invited me up into their aircraft to see the flight crew, and they had pre-positioned a Go Navy, Beat Army banner. And then I got to pin a couple of Purple Hearts on some warriors in Afghanistan who also said, Go Army, beat Navy. So, I mean, this carries over into the field.
And talk about that. I mean, there's going to be a worldwide effort to see this game. And back in the day, they would try to listen to it on submarines even, just to get any updates on how the game was progressing. It was the Super Bowl.
No, it is. It's bigger than the Super Bowl, frankly, because it takes kids who know exactly what we're going to ask them to do when they graduate, and it gives them one more chance to play football. I mean, you know, I don't think any of these kids will ever go on to a pro career in football, but they'll go on to a professional career in the United States military.
What was this game like for you when you remember back the early days of your service when you were outside of the country?
Well, when I was outside the country. Yeah. Well, whatever time of day or night, whether we were serving in Germany over many years, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Afghanistan, we always found a way to carve out a bit of time for this game.
Class of '74, you feeling the old days coming back today? Get a win?
I don't care about the old days. I want the new days, and I want it to start now.
I hear you.
Well, General Martin Dempsey, if it's going to happen, we're pretty sure you'd be the guy to initiate change around here. So
I'll do my best.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks,
and your service. We always enjoy your company.
Thank you. And for those of you watching, thanks for your service.
And we will continue here with our Army-Navy live tailgate presented by USAA in Philadelphia. Yeah, it's a little cold out there, huh?
You can stay there. It's warmer out there.
Introducing the Rack Roll Down, the lowest.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Ruth, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike? Shipmate, guess what today is?
It's Army-Navy game day.
Oh, yeah! Game day, oh, yeah!
That really was him. That's our star. He's here with us now. Admiral Jonathan Greenert joining us here on the Army-Navy live tailgate show presented by USAA. I've seen that clip. Over 25,000 people have seen that clip, the spoof on the commercial with the camel about Hump Day. I said that couldn't possibly be Admiral Greenert. That was you.
That was me. They talked me into it, but I thought it was we need to loosen up sometimes.
It came off really well, all in one take, right?
Yeah, I'd like to say that. It took about 30 minutes of tape, but I'll tell you, a girl named Julianne Metzger and a guy named Peter Lawler, 2 sailors, put that together for us.
Well, tell me about this week. What does this week mean to you? This is my first experience live. What does it mean to you?
Well, it's not quite SEC football. No, seriously. This is our bowl game, effectively. Every year, the Army-Navy game, it's everything to those that serve and those that have served, and especially going to the school. But it represents really all the services out there.
And Admiral, we've talked several times this morning about the fact that the midshipmen were taking their finals this week, but isn't football really sort of their recreational time compared to the how strict and everything else is in the academy experience? Football's fun.
Well, Randy, that's a good point, and that's the serious part. Get the exams done, and these folks are professionals, but they're professional soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines first. And football is a sport.
Football is a sport, and one that's been very important in a lot of their lives. Your life as well, growing up in Pittsburgh, right?
Oh, yeah. I think when we were all baptized, they give us an injection of black and gold. It happens to all of us.
Yeah, you grew up right in the middle of the Steelers dynasties there.
I did. Terry Bradshaw was drafted during my sophomore year in high school, and between that and Franco and Rocky and all that, yeah, it was a fortunate time to be in Pittsburgh.
They love days like this, Houston.
Oh, absolutely. Nice and chilly.
Oh, yeah. This is back down there with Three Rivers, the Three Rivers Stadium.
What about Keenan Reynolds, the job he's done? I tell you, I love watching this team play. They play so hard. What do you see now? Army, I'm seeing a lot of Army folks saying this is the year now. Kind of give me the rundown. What do you think between these two teams?
Well, Keenan Reynolds, he's everything for that option. And the advantage we've had, or the privilege we've had of him, is he can throw the ball a little bit. He is also very athletic, and he's durable, obviously. But what I like about the Navy team is they have never given up. And the way they have come back, I mean, there's been some high scores, but the way they've come back has really impressed me.
You look at a couple of games specifically, the Notre Dame game, the way they fought and fought and fought, and then that San Jose State game with the overtimes, all the touchdowns. How much do those efforts really, to you, when you watch those games, typify what a midshipman is?
Randy, that's an excellent point. It's never over. Preparation, detail, and execution. I mean, Ken Niumatalolo is an excellent coach, and he's got them. All those kids believe in him, and he believes in the kids. And that's the amazing part. They just never give up.
Looking to make it a dozen now. And Admiral John Greenert, we appreciate your time.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you very much.
Keep warm and enjoy the game.
Just think 12, guys. Thank you again.
We stay neutral.
Good to see you.
All right, let's check in with our friend Brent Stover now, who's with a special guest from USAA.
2-1. All right, Adam, thanks a lot. I'm with Wayne Peacock from USAA. He's the Executive Vice President of Member Experience. And first off, Wayne, how long have you guys been involved with this Army-Navy game?
5th year for us, doing the presenting sponsorship for the game.
How about for you, the experience and the opportunity with all the traditions? What's your favorite part of this?
Well, you got to love the march on, right? But I think for me, at the end of the game, watching both these teams get together and sing their alma maters together, great opportunity, a great example of sportsmanship at the academies.
Why is it so important for USAA to be involved with this?
This is Super Bowl for us, right? First, our 26,000 employees get a chance to say thank you to military families across the world. It's an opportunity for us to showcase what I think is the most storied rivalry in college sports, and then you get a chance to celebrate future leaders at America, because the folks that are playing and the folks that are in the stands are going to be some of the best and brightest going forward.
And finally, last night I saw you at the Army-Navy Boxing Classic here on CBS Sports Network. What was that experience like?
First time for me watching live boxing, but what a great competition. And before each one of those matches, these guys are hugging. You see the respect. Afterwards, you see the respect. But in that 9 minutes of boxing, those guys were at each other.
Wayne, appreciate the time.
Thanks, Brent.
Wayne Peacock of USAA. Adam?
All right, Brent, thank you very much. Our live tailgate show continues here from Philadelphia until 2:30 Eastern Time. Army-Navy live tailgate presented by USAA. Back with much more after this break.
A tradition full of pride, passion, and honor. The 114th Army-Navy game. Today on CBS.
Mine was
Inside College Football Army-Navy Tailgate on CBS Sports Network is being brought to you by USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of current and former military members and their families. And by Chevrolet. Find new roads.
And welcome back, everyone. When cadets graduate from West Point, they leave with a sense of loyalty, both to the place and to each other, that lasts the rest of their lives and beyond. It is the concept of the long gray line, one that the Bowers family of Huntsville, Alabama knows all too well.
Long gray line. It's 200 years of graduates.
all of whom have subscribed to the same set of ethics, and all of whom have had very similar experiences.
It's an extension of those values of duty, honor, country that follows you after you graduate, and that you remember that those who led the way before you had the same core, had the same value system, had the same code.
It's like having 1,000 brothers. They're brothers that you fight with, and then they're brothers that you would fight for.
The long gray line is really a feeling. It's something that talks to being a West Point graduate, to the common bond of what you've experienced at West Point, but also what you're doing in service to the nation.
Lieutenant Colonel William Bowers, West Point class of 1979, paid the ultimate sacrifice for his country on September 10, 2004. En route back to his camp in Iraq from a routine engineering check, he was ambushed and killed by insurgents. He was a patriot who served for 20 years in the military, yet his family was fighting a battle of their own back home.
My family was my career. And when he died, and I realized I have a daughter in high school, I have a son, and, you know, how am I going to get a job and support all of us now?
Yeah, it's a thought on your mind, you know, how am I going to get to college now that we don't have the same income?
I didn't really think about it because we had Bill. You know, he was making a good living. He was a good man. He would be able to put them through college.
4 decades before Lieutenant Bowers was killed in action, the West Point class of 1968 lost 20 classmates in Vietnam. They understood well that the ravages of war extended to the families left behind. In 2012, the class of '68 created a college scholarship fund for the children of West Point graduates who lost their lives in Iraq and Afghanistan. A call went out to the long gray line, and fundraising was underway for the Fallen Graduates Memorial Fund.
For me, the fund sort of defines the obligations that we all feel to the country and to one another.
We're reaching out through the years to the children whose fathers have already passed and letting them know that we're their family and we're not going to let them down. Their father may not be there, but we are.
I'm motivated by working with classmates towards a common end. I'm quite happy to be part of the long gray line.
In 2012, Jennifer Bowers was the first to receive a scholarship from the Fallen Graduates Memorial Fund to pursue a master's degree in engineering.
I think it's just proof, you know, that it really is a family. There's no way that you can replace, you know, somebody passing away from you. There's no amount of money that can do that. But just the support that they've provided and being there for us has really made us feel great. There's just times where you feel you're doing something and you feel, well, my dad would have really liked this, or he would be so proud of me right now. And that's when it's really hard.
It just showed that West Point doesn't end when you walk out the door. When I found out that she was getting this scholarship, I thought, God, Bill would have been so proud. And he would. He would be so proud of what she's become.
And you can donate to the Fallen Graduates Fund for Children of War Veterans Killed in Action. Please contact the email address on your screen to be a part of that. We will continue here with our Army-Navy live tailgate show presented by USAA from Philadelphia with the story of patience when we return.
Training Center, Panama City.
Go Navy, beat Army! That was pretty sweet. You ever do that with your teams, Coach?
Never have.
No?
Never have.
You got to be pretty muscular though to play at the bottom of the pool.
Very muscular. Takes the old fast twitch right out of the formula, doesn't it?
If you want to go over the top though, you can give it to me, give it to you, right?
I definitely would have known my role. It takes me back to my days as a kid in the summer trying to get quarters off the bottom of the pool.
Well, instead of colliding scuba masks, they're going to be hitting helmets here. Coming up at 3 Eastern time, and one of those guys is Colby Miller. And you see a day in the life of the cadet presented by U.S. Army. There's not much time for dilly-dally, as they say. Wake up, practice, class, lunch. It just continues all day, Coach. I mean, that's a busy day for him. Huh?
It's unbelievable. I mean, it's from daylight to dark, daylight to exhaustion. I mean, every single day, every hour. A lot of responsibility.
And what's interesting about us featuring Colby Miller there is that, you know, his daily life was very similar to other members of the Army football team, except for on game day, because he didn't play, not for 3 years. John Feinstein now with the story of his patience.
Colby Miller has always loved football. He loves the camaraderie and the intensity and the feeling that he's part of something worth caring about deeply. He's a cadet first class now, a senior in civilian parlance, and hopes to be training next fall to be an Army Ranger. He began this fall with one dream, to be in a football uniform on game day. You see, during his first 3 seasons at Army, Colby Miller never played one down. He never ran onto the field in uniform with his teammates, never took a snap, or stood with them for the playing of the alma mater after a game. He says the thought of quitting never crossed his mind. Even when the coaches told him he would probably never play, he still believed he had something to contribute.
I'm trying to explain to him that I don't think this Division I football is in his future, but he is so passionate about the game. He's so bonded with the team that it's so painful for him to contemplate. So he just won't let you turn him away.
Coach Ellison told me that I was going to be on the scout team probably for the next 4 years. I was fine with it. Whatever it takes to help the team out, I'm going to do it. I'm going to give 110%, and that's fine with me.
Miller played well enough in spring practice to move up the depth chart, but his role going into the season opener this past August against Morgan State was in doubt. It was his teammates, the team's leadership council, that convinced Coach Rich Ellerson to let him dress for the game. That was a huge moment in Miller's life. 2 weeks later, against Stanford, he finally played. Against Boston College, he made his first 3 tackles.
I mean, I remember when I made that first tackle, that first hit, I know all the players on the sideline, and they were like, oh, like, I mean, they were going crazy for me because they knew how hard I worked to get where I am.
He got his first sack against Eastern Michigan and then made a stunning 14 unassisted tackles against Temple. Walter Mitty come to life. Today, Colby Miller will play his last college football game. That he will play at all is absolute proof of his resolve and dedication. When the alma maters are played this evening, win or lose, no one will have more right to feel proud than Colby Miller.
When a kid has perseverance like that, Coach, get him on the field. 3rd on the team in tackles, and thank you, John. He didn't even play in the first 2 games this year, and now he's out there. I mean, he went out there against Stanford and lit things up.
What a story. What a story of perseverance. A guy that's never going to give up. Boy, I tell you what, you know the teammates love this guy. You know how hard he's going to play. He's going to give everything he has every single play. May not be the fastest, may not be the strongest, but he's there. He's there making plays, and he's a winner.
Well, and also during the game today, as Vern and Gary are describing the players, keep track of how many young men are coming off of injuries, how many guys have strained ligaments, broken bones, have severe sprains, that everything in their being has gone into getting ready to play in this game. And that's how much it means to a guy like Cadet Miller.
Yeah, with the inner drive that he had building up inside of him before he finally took the field, now we're going to see it to a whole nother level because it's his first Army-Navy game.
And what people people don't understand is the tremendous pressure that these young men are on a day-to-day basis. Football is the reward for these guys. Colby Miller wants to play football because that's the least stressful, easiest part of his day. For the rest of the student athletes like myself, football was the hardest part of our day, and that's what I think drives these guys to be so passionate, because they finally get a chance to have some fun and let their hair down, if you will, but it's playing the game that we love.
All right, we get set to watch Colby Miller out there for his one and only Army-Navy game. And in the meantime, let's check in once again with Brent Stover, who's standing by with a special guest from General Motors.
Adam, thanks a lot. I'm with Dan Ackerson, Chairman and CEO of General Motors. Before we talk about the partnership with the Army-Navy game, what about you? 1970, graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy. What's the difference between your experience back then to the way it is now as a fan?
Well, I think I'm a little more objective about it. I like to see a great game. Then I wanted to be one-way Navy. I graduated in the middle of the Vietnam War. We weren't nearly as popular with the American public as I think the military services are today. So that's good to see. I think that's something America should be proud of.
You guys are about to give away a 2014 Chevy Silverado. Tell me a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, we've always stood behind our veterans. There's the Achilles Freedom team, and they're wounded vets who have lost arms and legs. We design specific bikes for them, and they race around the country, and some of these bikes cost anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to make. They're unique. They're custom built for the handicap that's been experienced, and it's something we're very proud to stand behind.
Why is this partnership between General Motors and the Army-Navy game so important to you?
I think Army-Navy and the Army-Navy game in particular represents all that's right about college sports, and these two schools are great institutions that have always been there for America in service to the nation, and it's all about competition. It's about winning, and that's what these two schools represent, and camaraderie. I mean, we all know when we graduate we're going to serve together.
Dan, appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Dan Ackerson of General Motors. Adam, back to you.
All right, Brent, thank you very much. Of course, the weather has been a story here in Philadelphia. The temperature holding above 30, but there have been some wind gusts, and the snow is starting to come down a little bit more. It could make for a epic edition of Army versus Navy. Keenan Reynolds gonna have to hold on to that ball as it gets slippery here.
Mine was.
His coach, Wayne Hardin, called him the greatest quarterback Navy ever had. And after the 1963 season, no one could argue. Junior Roger Staubach rewrote the midshipman record books en route to claiming the 1963 Heisman Trophy. A virtual highlight film with every touch of the ball, Staubach guided the Mids to 9 wins and a #2 finish in the final AP poll. But among those victories, perhaps his greatest came in South Bend, Indiana on November 2nd. Staubach razzle-dazzled his way through the Irish defense that afternoon and threw for 2 of Navy's 5 touchdowns. The midshipmen defeated Notre Dame 35-14. It would be 44 years before Navy beat the Irish again.
Hard to believe it was 50 years ago, Roger Staubach winning the Heisman, and just like Roger then, Keenan Reynolds today will try to lead the Mids over Army for what would be a series record continuing 12th straight time. And Roger Staubach joining us now here on our Army-Navy live tailgate show. And Roger, it is great to see you here again on a very special day, a day that really defined you as a young man. Take us back. I know there's been a lot this week, this month, the 50 years since the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and you probably were his favorite player, and he was a big football fan. Talk about where we were 50 years ago as you got set to face Army in America's game.
Well, it's a long time ago, but
yeah.
After the '62 game, he did say some kind words about me. So he loved Navy. He was a Navy guy, but he loved the Army-Navy game. And I was getting ready to go into my thermodynamics class on a Friday afternoon, and I got the message he'd been shot, and then we got the word that he, passed away. And the game was on the 30th, so on the 23rd, if we would have played on the 23rd, I don't think the game would have been played. But in the locker room, Coach Harden said, we don't know what's going to happen. Then the family wanted the game to be played, so they moved it to December the 7th. And it was a game that they wanted to be played because he loved the Army-Navy game, and it was a great game. We ended up being fortunate, winning 21-15. But it was very emotional, and it was really a testimony to love for the Army-Navy game is the reason we played it, and I think it was a great testimony to President Kennedy.
Hey, he loved the rivalry so much he wanted it to be more even back then. Tried to get Vince Lombardi to become Army's head coach.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine if President Obama would try to convince Nick Saban to come to West Point now. What is it like for you, though, to come back every year to this game, to see the young men and women of our service academies filing in here and getting ready for this?
I don't get back every year, but it's Philadelphia. Philadelphia fans aren't really crazy about me with being a Dallas Cowboy, but I have good memories here. We won 2 out of the 3 Army-Navy games. And it's watching the midshipmen. My wife is, she just goes crazy watching the midshipmen come on the field, and she starts crying. So there's these men and women that are gonna, defend our kids, our grandkids, and so there's more to it than football. There's something that just, I guess, emotionally gets into all of us, and it's a great game. Everybody loves to watch the Army-Navy game, and I'm kind of proud of Navy football. We've been pretty competitive for a number of years now.
Keenan Reynolds, he's been so fun.
Yeah,
so fun
unbelievable.
To watch.
Yeah.
What do you think now with the weather? Looks so coming down. How do you think this is going to affect him today?
Well, I actually turned the game on last week when the Eagles were, McCoy in the second half. He ran for over 200 yards. Keenan is a fantastic football player. He's a great runner, great leader. And, last year in the second half, we were outplayed, but he had that great run. And so I think it's going to be to his advantage with a little snow on the field. I think he'll still have a great game.
We talk a lot about rivalries, but this rivalry, this Army-Navy rivalry turns into a brotherhood after you guys graduate, and it really is a rivalry for a lifetime, isn't it?
It is, Randy, and the Army quarterback that I played against, Rollie Stitchway, we've become great friends. There's a tremendous respect amongst the service academies, and even I've been involved in the real estate business for forever. And when I call someone they're an academy graduate, or there's a esprit de corps on and off the field. Obviously on the field we're fiercely competitive, but off the field there's a tremendous respect for each other.
It is a great thing to see, too, before and after the game is played. And while the game is played, it is the great rivalry.
Yeah, when I came to the Naval Academy, you got my hair cut off, and we learned how to say "beat Army." So that was that was very important. In that '63 season, we really had a great year, and it would have been a downer if we hadn't beaten Army.
From America's game to America's team. Roger Staubach, thank you very much for joining us.
Guys.
And enjoy the game. And whether it's on the field in Philadelphia today or whether it's cadets and midshipmen getting together for some flag football, the idea of beat Army or beat Navy carried through when they got together for some 9-on-9 back in mid-November.
Most of us were not from where we're stationed. And when we get the opportunity to do something that takes us back to our roots, it picks us up.
I think it's an honor to play for your branch of service.
It's a really great opportunity for the two branches to get together, have some cohesion, and have some fun.
Football, to me, is about trust.
You have to trust the man to your left and your right to back you up and be there for you when you need him.
It's more than just a football game, and we're just going to take a break from normal stuff and reconnect with our brothers over there in the Navy. We don't get a chance to hang out with them too often.
It's an honor. The family will look upon that and say, my husband or my son was involved with the game.
Mine was earned.
Inside College Football Army-Navy Tailgate on CBS Sports Network is being brought to you by USAA, proudly serving the financial needs of current and former military members and their families. And by the U.S. Army. There's strong, then there's Army Strong. Learn more about the strength behind the uniform at GoArmy.com.
And we are approaching kickoff, the countdown to America's game presented by USAA. Under 36 minutes now before kickoff on CBS. And of course, the mission for Army is to end the 11-game losing streak. The pressure, though, on both sides to either end it or keep it going.
This football team and their football team have never stepped on the field together. This is a one-off. Certainly we will use that backstory as a source of motivation and focus, but we are not going to let any of that history step onto the green grass with us.
Nothing that happened the last 11 years has any bearing on this game. Nobody can come back from those teams and tackle anybody in this game. You can't carry over points or subtract points. When we line up and play, it's 0-0.
Navy's had a lucky streak against us since about 2001, if I recall right. It's just one of those things that irks you as being an Army football player.
But at the end of the day, we know that the streak really doesn't affect this game. The only thing that affects this game is how we prepare and how we play on Saturday, December 14th.
How many days since we last beat Navy? 365 times 11.
How many days has it been since Army beat us? I don't know, but it's been 11 years. You do the math.
The wind picking up. It's a named storm. Winter Storm Electra is closing in on Philly, and Army would love to take some of these pieces of equipment onto the field with them today, I think, and have some more might as they try to end the streak that everyone was talking about here, the 11-game losing streak. And Coach, before we get to our picks, just talk about what it's like in a rivalry when you hear the they throw the records out. Like we saw with Michigan almost beating Ohio State a couple weeks ago. Something changes.
It does, Adam, and you hit it. Something does change, and it's the attitude, it's the effort. This is something that's very, very meaningful. This 60 minutes is something special, and we've heard all these people come up here and talk about this game time and time again, year after year, and they'll never forget it. So you watch these guys, they'll play above their level. They'll go to another level today because it's a rival game.
And early on, it can almost be too important. You can get too emotional in this game, especially you heard Rich Ellerson talk about it. It's a one-off. Well, there's kids that haven't played in an Army-Navy game, and they will be out of their minds as far as emotionally, and it'll take them a little while to settle down.
Yeah, but rivalries are about geography, they're about history, but they're also about consequences. And the bottom line is Army needs to step up and be able to get a win, because when you win 11 straight like Navy has, it doesn't become much of a rivalry. I've even talked to some Navy people today. They're saying, I kind of hope Navy or Army gets the win, because this has been so one-sided and so lopsided, it's kind of taken some of the fun out of it. What makes this rivalry so great is that it goes back and forth.
And of course, Army trying to do just that. And we talked with Roger Staubach about how 50 years ago, President Kennedy, even though he was a Navy man and rooted clearly for Navy, he wanted to make Army better and had pursued Vince Lombardi. And there's going to be a special moment before the game. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel is going to be doing the coin toss, using the coin that President Kennedy would have used in the 1963 Army-Navy game. It will be a great thing to behold here, especially if we get some more snow when the game kicks off and coverage beginning shortly on CBS. Let's get your picks, though, for who is going to win the 114th edition of Army-Navy America's Game.
I was reminded yesterday on a flight up from Atlanta that this was a year of the upset, and this was a young man that is from Alabama who was an Auburn fan, said, don't listen to all that stuff. It's the year of the upset. And I hate to argue with a young fan, but I'm going with Navy.
I like Navy in this game, too. At the end of the day, in weather like this, it plays a factor. I think weather plays a factor today, but because of Navy's ability to throw the ball slightly better, I think that gives them the advantage. That and the fact that they do a much better job protecting the football.
I know Navy's a good football team, Keenan Reynolds and all that, but I'll tell you, today, Army is going to stop the streak today. The rushing team that can hold the ball. Army.
Houston Nutted. Houston said it first, said it last. That will conclude our pregame coverage here of Army-Navy presented by USAA. Live coverage continuing now on your CBS stations. Enjoy the game, everyone.
Army is second in the nation in rushing. Can they run it up on Navy?
While Navy goes for 12 straight against their friendly foe.
10 hot. AutoTrader.com college football today is next. Welcome to AutoTrader.com college football today and the Army-Navy game presented by USAA. Just over 2 hours ago, the long gray line of the U.S. Military Academy marched into the stadium.
The Academy's mission is to educate, train, and inspire the Corps cadets so that each graduate is a commissioned leader of character, committed to the values of duty, honor, country.
Early graduates of West Point were largely responsible for the construction of the nation's initial railway lines, bridges, harbors, and roads.
West Point ranks 4th among the nation's colleges and universities with 90 Rhodes Scholars.
27 West Pointers have been enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Then it was the Brigade of Midshipmen of the U.S. Naval Academy. The official fight song of the Academy, Anchors Away, was debuted at the 1906 Army-Navy game.
Its motto, Excentia Tridens, is Latin for knowledge, sea power.
Navy's football uniforms will honor Captain James Lawrence, famed for his dying command issued during the War of 1812. Don't give up the ship.
Navy is one of just 4 schools to produce a president of the United States, Jimmy Carter, and a Super Bowl winning quarterback, Roger Staubach. Hi again, everyone. I'm Tim Brando. Welcome to AutoTrader.com College Football Today and the 114th Army-Navy game presented by USAA. No matter what the outcome today, Navy will retain the Commander-in-Chief's trophy and is bowl-bound. They'll play Middle Tennessee in the Bell Helicopter Armed Forces Bowl on December 30th. For the Black Knights, they're trying to snap Navy's 11-game win streak in the series. As always, I'm joined by Spencer Tillman and Brian Jones. Fellas, bowls, winning streaks, that's just football. This event is about so much more.
That's right. The seniors, the first class when they call them, Timmy Brando. This is a special 60-minute period of time. Much of what they have engaged in to this point is behind the 4 walls of academia and, of course, behind the white lines on the football field. But many of them, even as we draw down our troops around the world, will be deployed to hot spots around the world behind enemy lines, where the rules are not public and the playing field is certainly not level. And so for that, we owe them a great debt of data.
And we do all the time. We owe them a great debt. And you're correct. What's looming for these young men on the horizon is something that we can't contemplate. But I tell you what, this is one of the more special rivalries, if not the most special rivalry there is in all of college football. And if you've never had a chance to take it in personally, you need to put it on your bucket list because it is something you will not forget.
Without a doubt. Last night, the coaching carousel had one major name eliminated from the conversation. The University of Alabama finalized a contract agreement with Nick Saban that, according to school officials, will keep him in Tuscaloosa for the remainder of his career. Terms have not yet been released. Also yesterday, Mack Brown met with University of Texas President Bill Powers and new athletic director Steve Patterson. Patterson declined to say what was discussed or if any conclusion had been reached, and Mack isn't saying anything publicly. But now let's get back to Army-Navy. The Black Knights' prolific ground attack is spearheaded by running back Terry Bagot. Bagot is now a junior, but for him, time hasn't erased memories of Reception Day, otherwise known as our day, which marks the beginning of cadet basic training.
What we wanted for Terry was not just a school that would promote his athletic skills, but one that would develop his character. So we were convinced that West Point was the right place for them to be.
You have 90 seconds to say your goodbyes.
I never really had any doubts. You know, the coach from University of Pennsylvania came to my house and he said, the only school that could possibly be better than the Ivy League would be a military academy, but you don't want to go there because you got to march all day.
2 years ago, Terry Bagot was a blue-chip recruit.
Keep that butt down unless you want to be Forrest Gump.
Experiencing a humbling transition to life at West Point.
As a freshman, you have no rank. You're a plebe, and basically you're at the bottom of the totem pole.
Go to attention. Go to attention.
It's a really good thing, honestly, because it reminds you that football is it's a big thing, but it's not everything.
What's so funny when you get Bagot? I don't understand.
The dark days, you do have to embrace the suck.
Learning to love the pain is a familiar part of the curriculum at West Point, a place where the resolve of cadets is tested daily. For Bagot, football was supposed to be the easy part, but his character was tested during his first 2 seasons when he struggled with injury.
When you're on the sideline, you know, you never know what could happen, but you do always have to be ready, and that's one thing you learn throughout military training. That's one thing you learn and on the football field. You know, it's my job to be prepared to go in, and I was always ready to do that.
Now a junior, Bagot has been a revelation for the Black Knights this season. With over 1,000 yards, he's become the leading rusher on the nation's #2 rushing team. 304 of those yards came in a single record-breaking effort.
To the ground, here goes Bagot. Terry Bagot breaks free again. Are you kidding me?
Terry Bagot is a phenomenal running back. Whenever he gets the ball, then I can almost guarantee something great's going to happen.
96 yards for Bagot. Big play, Bagot again.
It seemed like no matter where he got the ball or what the circumstance was, he was going to make 10, 15, or 90 yards.
Terry Bagot has just set the Army single-game rushing record with...
Pete Dawkins is a legend in Army history, and when somebody like that takes your hand and tells you you had a good game, that's a phenomenal moment.
Bagot's going to take it outside. He's got the first down into the end zone.
It's been a season of accolades and acclaim, but for Bagot, there's only one measure of success that matters.
When it comes to the Army-Navy, nothing you did before matters. All they care about is, are you prepared to win this game? Are you prepared to go up against your opponent, look them straight in the eyes, and then beat them? Because it's a game that we have to win.
And deservingly so. His name goes in the pantheon of great Army running backs. Doc Blanchard and Glenn Davis are somewhere smiling.
Yeah, you look at that, those carries, 8 yards per carry. He's only second to the great Glenn Davis in the Black Knights record book. So for all those with at least 100-yard carries, he's right there at the top.
All right, now let's hear from both coaches in today's game, starting with Army's Rich Ellerson in Planning for Success, presented by Northwestern Mutual.
Will we be up to the challenge? You betcha, because we have some guys that are really good football players in their own right, that'll be 100% focused on the challenge at hand. And the guys that have been just incredible, I think, in helping us keep our focus from week to week.
Make sure your eyes are in the right place. Make sure you execute your assignment with great detail in your technique. And first and foremost, I've always thought that the team that takes care of the football normally wins the football game.
I talked to both coaches this week, and the noise and the so-called clutter, they have to deal with more of it than do the players when it comes to Army-Navy. When we come back, who else but David Feherty to present a unique take on Navy's winning streak against Army. You're watching Autotrader.com College Football Today on CBS.
This is Secretary of State John Kerry, and standing with me at the State Department are active duty personnel and Service Academy alumni of the U.S. Army. Go Army! And the U.S. Navy. Go Navy! What a privilege it is for me to stand here with our brave men and women and to be with all of you who wear the uniform of our country. From all of us at the State Department, where more than 7,000 veterans serves, thank you. One last thing, go Navy!
Navy sophomore Keenan Reynolds set an NCAA record for most rushing touchdowns in a game by a quarterback with 7, including the game winner in the November 22nd triple overtime victory against San Jose State. Welcome back. Now let's take a look at how Navy performs in the red zone, presented by Verizon.
Well, Navy uses the triple option attack extremely well in open field, even into the boundary. Look at this guy, number 45. He's a linebacker with his hand down. He is totally confused, misses at the mesh point on the fullback and the back and the quarterback. He's like a dog with a new pan, not quite sure whether to eat or not, BJ.
Yeah, watch how they influence this outside backer there, highlighted to your right with this motion by the wing. You know, he's out of position trying to contain that play. If he stays in his current position or where he started, maybe he's an extra body in the interior of that defense to help keep Keenan Reynolds out of the end zone, that is.
Fellas, today's matchup marks the 50th anniversary of the 1963 Army-Navy game, which took place amid very trying circumstances. That contest was eventually played under the solemn watch of a nation grappling with the shocking loss of its leader, President John F. Kennedy. Tomorrow at 7 Eastern on the CBS Sports Network, it's an encore presentation of Marching On, 1963 Army-Navy Remembered.
With the blessing of the First Lady, the Army-Navy game was rescheduled for Pearl Harbor Day, 15 days after the assassination.
When I got out there, it was complete silence, and I'd never experienced that in a football game in my life. It was almost eerie.
But I will say that at that point, the kickoff took place, and quite frankly, every person in that stadium put aside the morning and played the game.
Riley Sidway, going to the 5, touchdown!
That's certainly what President Kennedy would have wanted. He was a huge football fan and a great supporter of the game. It was a statement that we're going to go on.
That's tomorrow at 7 on the 24-hour home of CBS Sports. We've already made mention of Navy's record 11-game winning streak in this series over Army, but no one can put it into perspective quite like our own David Feherty.
One of the things that sets the military academies apart from other institutes of higher learning is that along with their regular studies, all students have to major in art. The art of war, that is. Troops are not usually deployed until they've finished school, but that doesn't mean they don't get to practice hand-to-hand combat while they're there. And the biggest fight of every school year occurs when Army plays Navy. From their very first meeting in 1890, they've been relentless in their efforts to beat the stuffing out of each other, and they're susceptible to superstition. The game means everything to every soldier and sailor, from chiefs of staff to commanders-in-chief, and apparently the occasional goat in a helmet. Hey, if it works, maybe it's not that weird, but it is definitely a sign of obsession. We thought we'd surprise Navy, who've been so clever for the last 11 years, with a little pop quiz combining history with math.
How many days since Army last beat us? I'm counting. Let's see, 12 years times 360. I'll get it, hold on. I'm not that good at math. It's a lot of days.
How many days since Army last beat us? 40,000 or something?
40,000 days is about 110 years. I like that. Almost half the age of America. And nearly the length of this rivalry. It was a few months after the tragic events of September 11th, 2001 when Army last won this game.
Johnson is going to go all the way down. Touchdown.
4,396 days ago, to be exact. That was the last time Navy had something to hang their heads about. Outside of combat, this battle for bragging rights on the football field might just be these schools' most primal motivation. Unlike civilian colleges whose graduates go on to civilian jobs, these young men dedicate at least some of their careers to serving America, and that makes for the most love of any football game. Love, as in they love to win.
Nothing doing on this one.
Which is making this 11-year ache so painful for those at Army. You see, our military has a team concept for which there is no civilian equivalent. When the combat bell rings, they have each other's 12s, 3s, 6s, and 9s, and no matter how impossible the task, they just keep on coming. And that's what makes today's game, well, the last 11 games, hell, the last 113 games, so unique.
Indeed. David has been a U.S. citizen for nearly 4 years, and if you're wondering where he stands on the divide, his son just graduated from Fort Benning basic training. So for the Fehertys, it's go Army all the way. All right, fellas, how do you approach a rivalry that's one team's had the upper hand for so long?
Well, Timmy, this is a little bit tricky, right? You know, for a rivalry to be considered a legitimate or bona fide rivalry, you have to win a few, right? That doesn't apply to this particular series here. I think they're like islands of excellence, little archipelagos of history.
Yeah.
And if you're Navy, you better be mindful of that, otherwise you can get snuck up.
Well, I got a chance to play in some great ones. You know, UCLA, USC, my first couple of years, and then, of course, Texas versus Texas A&M, Texas versus your Sooners. And I am so happy I can announce that I never lost to the Sooners in a Texas Longhorns uniform.
Well, when we come back, we'll talk Heisman with some of the finalists here in the studio. Army's A.J. Shore has split quarterback duties all season long, but he's taken advantage of his time under center, running for 4 touchdowns in the Black Knights' last game, a loss to Hawaii. You're watching Autotrader.com College Football Today on CBS. Autotrader.com College Football Today is sponsored by Autotrader.com. Now compare new and used cars and find the best deal on Autotrader.com. The new LG G2, learning from you with LG, it's all possible. And by Napa, Napa know-how. Welcome back to Autotrader.com College Football Today. The 114th edition of Army-Navy is coming up. Kickoff set for 3:10 Eastern. A reminder for all your college football scores and news, download the CBS Sports app. Text SCORE to 42777 or go to cbssports.com/mobile. Message and data rates may apply. Tonight, the Heisman Trophy will be awarded, and now we're joined by finalists A.J. McCarron, Jordan Lynch of Northern Illinois, running back Andre Williams of Boston College. Thanks for stopping by, gentlemen, and I'll start with you, A.J. You were 36-3 as a starter, 2 BCS championships. Can you put into words what this Heisman recognition means for you?
I think it means, I think it's more than me. I think it shows the type of players that I played with and unbelievable teammates I had and coaching staff, and, you know, they deserve all the credit, really.
Hey, A.J., incredible finish to that Iron Bowl, Auburn, Alabama. Of course, not for you. What was going through your mind during that ball game, during the end there?
Let's get off the field before they storm it. I mean, that's football. It happens. And like I said after the game, I try to leave football on the field and not take it into my personal life.
So do you think the SEC's BCS streak will continue?
I hope so. That's me personally. So hopefully, you know, that might be the one night I wear orange and blue.
Uh-oh, wow.
Well, that's a scoop.
Breaking news.
Thanks for giving us the breaking news. An incredible career. You're really what makes our job so much fun to cover people like you, A.J. When you think about it, the other 5 finalists are from either the SEC or ACC. And when we turn to Jordan Lynch, that's what I really want to ask you about, to represent the so-called non-automatic qualifying conferences, what that means for you, Jordan.
Yeah, it's a great honor. You know, I wouldn't be here without my teammates and my coaches. And, you know, just to get the recognition around the country, you know, from all the voters, you know, at this mid-major level, you know, it's a true accomplishment.
Jordan, I am so impressed with your style. Talk about your style of play.
Yeah, it's the only way I know how to play, really. You know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, in a blue-collar town. And, you know, I'm going to fight for every inch. I'm going to give my chance to team in the 4th quarter.
Heisman invite, playing in a BCS bowl game. Which one trumps the other, if in fact they do?
Yeah, I would say the BCS bowl. That's awesome. You know, just with the team and just overall, you know, the great experience there.
Andre, you never ran for more than 600 yards before this year, 2,102 yards in a season. What was responsible for such a turnaround in your game?
I think a lot of things went into this season. You know, we went through a coaching change.
Yeah.
We just got a lot of great football minds around the program right now, and Brad Bates and Coach Adazio, and he really just brings a lot of great energy into the locker room, and we feed off of it.
When did you feel like you had a legitimate shot at 2,000 yards? Was there any point during the process where you felt like you were going to get it?
I just never really set my eyes on 2,000. I was just really worrying about each individual game and just performing the best I could in each individual game. And the numbers just kept adding up, and it, you know, it just started to seem like a ridiculous amount of yards at the end of it.
I know you lost to Florida State, but you're the last team to challenge them, really.
I think we played Florida State better than anybody else in the country.
Why were you so successful versus them, and what can Trey Mason and Auburn take from that game?
They're going to have to, run the football well, but I think Trey's going to, be able to take care of that. But honestly, I'm from the ACC. I want to see the ACC take this one.
Right. Love the allegiance. Good luck to all of you, and many thanks for stopping by. You'll hear from the other three members of the Heisman class, Jameis Winston, Trey Mason, and Johnny Manziel, at halftime of Army-Navy. But now, game time is here. The 114th edition of Army-Navy is next. Vern, Gary, and Tracy will have the call after this message and a word from your local station. You've been watching Autotrader.com College Football Today on CBS.
Welcome to Army-Navy, America's Game, presented by USAA. This is the Home Depot College Football on CBS Sports. Today, the 114th renewal of Army versus Navy. It is a blustery afternoon in Philadelphia, but that will not affect the celebration of this 114th game. Let's go down to public address announcer Dan Baker.
Ladies and gentlemen, 50 years ago last month, our nation lost its leader when President John F. Kennedy was tragically assassinated days before the Army-Navy football game. At this time, we ask that you direct your attention to the video board for a special feature.
50 years ago, America lost its leader, a military man and a football fan, President John F. Kennedy. A decorated veteran of the United States Navy, Kennedy celebrated his love for the military and football by attending 2 Army-Navy games during his time as president. 2 weeks after Kennedy was assassinated, the 1963 Army-Navy game was played in his memory. 50 years after that memorable game, we remember President John F. Kennedy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the invocation led by Father Edson Wood, chaplain at the United States Military Academy, and please remain standing for our national anthem, as sung by the combined West Point Glee Club and United States Naval Academy Men's and Women's Glee Clubs and Gospel Choir.
May we pray. Eternal God, as we remember President Kennedy's naval career in World War II, his heroic performance in the Solomon Islands in 1943, and his dedication to this game some 50 years ago, Army and Navy meet once again on a field of friendly strife. Bless the cadets and midshipmen of the academies. Give them a deep commitment to service and dedication. Let our academies always and forever make this nation proud. Sustain all the members of our armed forces and their families throughout the world, especially those in areas of tremendous risk. Be merciful to those who have given their lives to keep this nation free. Fill each heart in this stadium today with the conviction that what we do here shows the world the deep beauty of a free and proud people. And finally, Heavenly Father, hear once again the constant prayer of our hearts. Bless the United States of America and those who live and die to make it for all time the land of the free and the home of the brave. Amen.
Our national anthem, whenever sung or played, always seems to evoke emotions in all of us, never more so than when sung by the combined glee clubs of the U.S. Military Academy and the U.S. Naval Academy. They meet on the playing field for the 114th time. The Home Depot College Football on CBS. The Army-Navy game presented by USAA is sponsored by Ram Trucks, Aflac, AT&T, and by USAA, who, along with the fans here in Philadelphia, salute America's game.
Honestly, when I think of Army football, I don't think of just the family that I have on the team, but I think of my father because he played on the same team.
My goal here is to become a United States Marine. My goal is to serve my country with honor and become an astronaut.
I'll be an armor officer, just like my grandfather before me.
My goal is to serve this country and to make my family proud.
Forged deep into the bedrock of each American generation, these two institutions were formed to train leaders of character, the success of their mission spanning the history of this land. United in the defense of their country, they stand apart in only one place.
When you show up as a plebe, that's the first thing that you learn is beat Army. That's the game like you have to win. It's an Army-Navy game. It kind of goes without saying how much it means.
Each year since 1890, the ultimate brotherhood becomes the ultimate rivalry. A symbol of teamwork, commitment, and valor. It stirs patriotism, and when called upon, serves to heal.
The game represents so much more than just one team versus another. We play for those fighting in battle.
We play for our brothers. It's a bond that you can't describe and you can't get anywhere else.
It means everything to me.
To the winner, the privilege of singing second. It's an honor that has eluded Army for 11 straight years, with last year's loss being the toughest of all.
Nothing doing on this one.
Each year it seems we get closer and closer, and eventually, the dam has to give, and we have to win this game.
When we do end this streak, it's going to mean a whole lot.
The moment is at hand once again. On this day, allies become adversaries.
My goal is to beat Navy in everything we do. Go Navy, beat Army. Beat Army. Go Army, beat Navy. Go Navy, beat Army. Beat Navy.
Do it not only for us, but for all those before us.
For the 114th time, it's Army, Navy.
And we welcome you to Army-Navy America's game. Presented by USAA. This is the Home Depot College Football on CBS Sports. Today, the 114th renewal of Army versus Navy. Moments ago, first on the field, the midshipmen of the United States Naval Academy. And right behind them, after Navy, or rather after Army, Navy. And the Army Black Knights. Apache helicopters flying overhead. Good afternoon, everybody. Vern Lundquist along with Gary Danielson. 11 losses in a row for Army to Navy. None more painful than the one they suffered last year. Army was going in for the go-ahead touchdown, and the mishandled handoff between Trent Steelman and Larry Dixon led to this unbelievably poignant scene for the four-year quarterback who had tried valiantly to lead his team to victory in this game, never to be successful. Now, Gary, they say this game stands alone. It's hard to believe that.
Yeah, it really is. Everybody's saying the right thing. You know, the coaches are, the players are. But this game doesn't happen in a vacuum. And I think that Army has it in their head a little bit, even though they say they don't. We've seen in the last 2 years, they played Navy toe-to-toe. But Army has been Army's worst enemy. Too many turnovers. And for them to win this game, they have to handle the ball, number one. And number two, I think they'll move the ball on offense okay. They got to stop the quarterback for Navy. Keenan Reynolds is becoming a great player. They need to stop his play.
How do they do that?
Well, it's not going to be easy. Last year he came in here a little bit nervous in this football game. Kind of finished that game with a win by that last drive, but he's gotten better. He runs the ball, he throws the ball, and he really is the difference in this football game and the center of the game.
Well, ready for the coin toss, a very special silver dollar to be used. It was the silver dollar that was to have been tossed by President John F. Kennedy 50 years ago. After the game had been played and a different coin used, Secretary of Army Cyrus Vance sent this coin, the silver dollar, and a letter to Tom Lynch, who was the captain of the Naval Academy team. It is being used in the coin toss today. Let's go down there right now.
Visitors will call the toss. Here's the one. This is tail. Secretary of Defense Nagel will put the one and allow it to hit the ground. Army captain, what do you call? And it is tail. Army won the toss. One under first.
And moments ago, Tracy Wolfson with Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel.
Mr. Secretary, today we are remembering that 1963 game. To finally use that coin for its intended purpose, what does that mean?
Well, I think it's representative of our country, the high esteem that we hold all those who serve our country, and to have that coin used today, recognizing the sacrifices and service of generations of Americans.
This is your first Army-Navy game that you've been in attendance for. How has this experience been for you?
Well, there is really nothing quite like this. I've been to games at the Naval Academy at West Point, not this one, but to bring our country together like this in such an important way, it's fun, it's America, it represents everything good about this country.
We appreciate it. Thanks so much. Enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
Vern, back to you.
Tracy, thank you. You can see the weather conditions are blustery at best. We expect light snow to fall from now until the conclusion of the game. And I don't think it'll.
Oh, come on, it's perfect.
Yeah, you're right. Well, Army won the toss and deferred. Navy, after this 11-game win streak, the first game played in 1890, and this is the 85th meeting in various venues in Philadelphia.
You couldn't draw a prettier picture, could you, at the start of this thing?
No shortage of great